Of the 5 Tauron strikes available, Vazarin Strike with Nidri has the longest timed effect of them all, lasting up to 40 seconds. But why should you care to cast it? I'm TheKengineer, let's solve a practical problem. Vazarin's Tauron Strike, Nidri, plants a staff into the ground and creates a large persistent vortex. This vortex covers approximately 20 meters radius spherically, extending through all walls and terrain unimpeded, meaning no line of sight checks. I say approximately as D forgot to tell us. On cast, all enemies within the vortex are highly damaged and, unless they're resistant to crowd control, each is dragged into the middle of the vortex. Despite the vortex lingering for up to 40 seconds, the pull effect only happens on the initial slam of the staff. With additional upgrades, Nidri performs some mixed effects. Overguarded enemies lose 25% of their max overguard every second in the vortex, fully clearing it in 4 seconds without other damage. All enemies that enter the vortex become permanently 100% vulnerable to status chance, effectively doubling your status chance when attacking them. This only affects status chance based effects, not force procs such as from Lavos' Catalyze. Allies within the field heal 250 health per second, as well as reviving dying players and bringing back dead players, even when they're otherwise run out of lives, such as during Deep Arc Media. Lastly, every enemy within the vortex is linked to every other enemy, similar to Kalervo's Collective Curse, but with no visual indicator. On such an enemy taking weapon or ability damage, the same damage is applied to all other enemies in the vortex, bypassing armor. Status damage, however, is not shared, including both status damage on the enemy, like with heat, and AoE damage, like with gas. In practical use then, this is a combination ability for 2 different cases. Hold it for reviving allies in a pinch, or place it regularly and strategically to turn direct damage into AoE, and squaring AoE application. The revival use cases are pretty obvious. I'm not going to bore you by listing the various places that players, especially undergeared players, can meet a swift and untimely end. The healing, on the other hand, is largely nothing special. 250 health per second is a lot, but who needs it? Most builds that will be able to use such health gain, certainly that much of it, will already be running a health tank. Such tank needs to be able to sustain while Nidri isn't active. If the build already sustains, Nidri's healing achieves nothing. If the build is insufficient, the frame is dead before Nidri charges. Now, while the defensive properties are fully great or easily ignored, far more curious is what you can do offensively with the Vortex. Its radius is roughly twice that of Vauban's Bastille and Vortex. Given that Vauban players usually massively increase their range stat, you can pretty much get away with assuming they're the same size. This means Nidri's Vortex is a Bastille-sized collective curse that ignores terrain and reapplies on all new enemies for 40 seconds, but it cannot carry over status damage. As the size is so constrained, it can only really hold one tight location. If you place it anywhere wider, even trying to cover 2 relatively nearby doorways, you'll mostly affect neither location. This is because enemies need to both enter and stay inside of the Vortex. Warframe abilities like Bastille can be cast in multiple locations and trap the enemy once inside, getting constant value from those abilities. For abilities like Collective Curse, with a more immediate effect, you can constantly recast them on new groups of enemies, moving yourself around to wherever the ability is needed. Nidri does neither of these things. It won't capture enemies, and it's not a frequent cast. You get one cast every couple minutes if built for faster charging, covering only a single location. As it cannot be kept up constantly, no build can rely on its existence. You have to be able to play without it. This relegates it to being a bonus, a utility extra. How effective that bonus is now depends on what core setup you're using. If you're using a mobile AoE setup, like Hildren's Aegis Gale or powerful AoE weapons like the Tenno Envoy, then there's no reason at all to deploy Nidri for the Vortex. You'll clear that spot normally in the time it'd take to even cast the strike. For static AoEs, like with Octavia's Mallet, you can get a powerful effect, most notably in bypassing terrain. Nidri can reapply Mallet's damage within its whole area, affecting enemies that cannot be seen by Mallet. Unfortunately, this shouldn't be much benefit. If you're able to hit a sizable number of enemies quickly enough to matter with Nidri, you're probably setting up Octavia in a bad spot in the first place. As you need to be able to run the mission without Nidri, It'll provide a limited damage buff in most static AoE situations. Then finally for single target, using a single target weapon or ability suitable for the mission at hand will likely mean a playstyle incompatible with the static AoE effect Nidri creates. You can force the matter, putting it down and trying to position yourself to encourage enemies to blunder into the vortex field for the next 40 seconds, but you'll likely only get 1 or 2 good chains out of it. My honest take is that Nidri is simply too fleeting for its size to be of significant offensive benefit. Not useless, of course, damage multiplication is still damage multiplication. Yet, considering the single, relatively small, static AoE, combined with a long downtime forced between casts, there's not a single setup I found that substantially benefits during the uptime without absolutely folding during the downtime. It's cinematic, it's flashy, it's a great way to fill your team's vision with a violently vibrant colour, and it'll pick up the Tenno who got eaten by a surprise Toxin Xmas in ETA. The revival feature is unique and reliable at the cost of skipping the offensive features entirely, which, given I can't find a single build it adequately completes, maybe that's not much of a loss. I'm just one guy on the internet though. Maybe you have a particularly powerful use case I've missed for an offensive Nidri approach. If so, let me know down in the comments. In any case, that's all on Nidri for now, so as always, slam vortex, spam effects, and fight well, Tenno.